What I want to do in the next 5 to 10 minutes is give you a quick sense of what is CloudShift and why our customers are super excited about it, right? So I've been taking this to a lot of customers, and we're getting tremendous amount of feedback. There is a full deep dive, gory technology session after this that Boris and Mike are going to do. So my goal is to just make you aware of what the solution is, and then we'll jump into a full detailed overview of how it works in the next session. My role is product management, and so I'm a product ninja at Datrium, and I work with customers to make sure that we're making products that solve their needs. So Lala mentioned this as a and what I thought I'll do is give you guys a sense of, DVX is obviously the on-prem product. So that I mentioned, you buy software, you run it on your servers. We can ship the data nodes today. It's just to give data a good, reliable solution. There's no particular dependency with that hardware. We can run the same software in the cloud that can back up data in S3. And CloudShift is a new service offering that can help orchestrate data mobility across these environments. So it could be between two on-premises systems, or it could be from an on-premises system to the cloud, specifically on VMware Cloud on AWS. So I'm going to double-click on CloudShift. And what CloudShift is really one service that can give you many use cases, right? So disaster recovery is one use case. That's what we are starting with. And so you'll see a lot of detail on that today. But equally applicable is the ability for CloudShift to do intelligent migration, right? It can do test dev instantiation of a certain amount of workloads that you may be storing in S3 in the cloud. Of course, it can do that between two on-prem sites. And it can also help you instantiate those workloads so that you can perform test dev analytics, other use cases that you have with old data or recent data, right? So having said that, what is CloudShift, right? So CloudShift at its very core is a runbook automation engine. It has the ability, because it's built on a single converged stack of DVX, which does primary, backup, replication. It is able to perform end-to-end compliance checks so that you are sure that when you need that data to be available, it's actually going to be there, right? So that you don't do a failover and then realize I've got a problem. And lastly, it supports the use case where it can take you from DVX to DVX or DVX to the cloud. Because we are a primary system, it can give you instant RTO. So the recovery is super fast. It can give you RPO in minutes, not days or hours, as with a typical backup system. And because it also has backup attributes, it can not only give you disaster recovery, but it can also give you cybercrime recovery. So there are latest statistics where a cybercrime attack could render the last 180 days of data not applicable. And with CloudShift and the ability for CloudShift to take really old backups and spin them up as well as the latest backups, you can get both disaster or cybercrime recovery. So Lala talked about this. We have designed everything we try to do in our solution is designed for a modern experience, right? So this is delivered as a SaaS offering for certain customers. We can also deploy this in their own cloud. But the experience is SaaS. The experience is a modern UI, which at the first instance allows you to get a complete environment visibility. So this is an instance where you have multiple on-prem sites. And this is trying to tell you what the health status is of all these sites that I can see as CloudShift looking down on the on-prem or in the cloud environment. But most importantly, it's really easy to use. Right? So from a customer perspective, we have tried to make sure that they have nothing to install, nothing to manage, nothing to upgrade, nothing to do with that software, which they typically would have to do in case they were deploying this in an on-premises system, or some of the multitude of offerings that are available out there. So SaaS, or bring your own cloud, completely automated deployment and configuration in both models, nothing for the customer to do. They just need to log in, create their orchestration plan, and click a button. And you'll see that in the demo as we go along real quick. So what can CloudShift really do? I just want to bring it home real quick, right? It can do private cloud orchestration, so between two DVXs. it can do an orchestration where your cloud backup is a site for a large amount of backups, and you want to bring them back on-prem and orchestrate that recovery. That's possible as well. And third is the public cloud recovery, which is what we'll focus on the demo today.
Can I just to clarify that piece, the S3 backup is just an S3 target to store the backups, and if you want to restore from that, then you restore back to DVX either.
So that's one of the possible use cases. That's the middle one here that I call cloud backup recovery, where we want to bring it back on-prem. But what we also support is the ability to instantiate that in VMware Cloud on AWS. That's the third one.
If I sort of put the VMware Cloud AWS to one side, say I'm not an AWS customer or not, if I've just got this on-prem, I have DVX in one site, DVX in another, or I recover a site. Here, the S3 piece and the whole cloud outside of VMware Cloud AWS is just a tier, a target to store
Absolutely
data.
right. Absolutely right. But the cool thing about that is, one use case for that is that you want to bring the whole VM back. We can do that. CloudShift can actually orchestrate a bunch of VMs and bring them back and do all of the necessary tasks that are needed to bring up an environment. So that's not just registering a VM, that's doing a bunch of other stuff that I'll get into a second. But what really cool is that we can bring back individual guest files also right from the cloud. And so we can probably look at that in the demo as well, but we provide customers with a very granular ability to access their data from S3 backups at the guest file level, at the VMDK level, at the VM level, or at the group of VM level.
I got a quick question too on that slide. So since the backups are being stored in this scenario in S3, is a requirement for the restore to happen that a pre-provisioned SDDC for VMware on AWS is there, or is that not a 100% requirement?
Great question. The answer is it's not a requirement. And I'll talk about that in just a second, which is a huge value proposition for our customers, which essentially means you don't need to run the second data center. You only spin it up when you need it, and you can tear it down when you don't need it. You only pay for VMC for hours.
So with the development work you've done on Cloud DVX, you guys have shown that you can do some development work against S3, right? So what is the barrier preventing you from taking those cloud-based backups and instantiating them directly in AWS?
Yeah, great question. So I think the reason is very, very aligned with what Suzala's session was all about, is that does not give customers a consistent experience, right? You're really converting your virtual machine from a VMware environment to an Amazon EC2 AMI. And at that point, from an enterprise customer perspective, they're looking at multiple consoles. They're looking at a completely different environment between on-prem and cloud. And at the same time, you're not really getting the instant restore that you want, because conversion of an AMI does take time.
But it seems like you're achieving that goal through constraining the options rather than expanding the manageability of the product.
I mean, you're right. So I think the way I would answer this is, if you look at the industry right now, the industry is littered with options where the only solution for customers is to do the conversion, right? So this is sort of what everybody does, is they store data in an S3 bucket, and then they use the Amazon EC2 import, export APIs to convert that into the native instance. Customer after customer that we've spoken to say that it doesn't really work very well, A. And second, is that a consistent, like, how do you trust that as a DR solution? That's probably okay if you want to do test dev and analytics. But if you really want to focus on a DR, you really need that consistency. And so what we decided very early on, we had this debate internally, and some of the engineers are sitting here. We decided very specifically that our goal was to make a solution that enterprises can actually use for DR. And if you have a conversion environment, how do you do networking? How do you do management interface? How do you do the RTO that we want, and from a zero RTO perspective, because you need that VM to be converted. And so for those reasons, we decided to focus more on getting this to work with VMC, because it can be a true DR solution that can help you eliminate a complete second site. We can very easily do the conversion, because frankly, we just had to rely on Amazon. So we just haven't consciously not focused not to do it, because our solution is to give them a consistent experience.
Can you do a 0-second RTO restoring from AWS S3 backup on VMware Cloud
Yes.
and AWS, but without any previous, without any infrastructure in VMware AWS?
Absolutely, and you see that in the demo.
Okay.
That's
0-second RTO.
Zero RTO.
So I press a button, it's there.
Yes.
Without any.
Yes. You're spoiling the demo, but yeah.
Okay. But it takes like.
90 minutes to.
It looks like magic, but it is true. And we'll show that to you in a demo.
Okay.
So I'm going to speed it up real quick. Comprehensive orchestration plans. I don't need to go into the details on this. You're all well familiar with orchestration as it pertains to DR. We can do vCenter mappings all the way from on-prem to the cloud, compute resources mapping, change IP addresses, change network that need to be attached to the VMs, so on and so forth. You'll kind of see that in a demo, so I won't spend too much time. But then from a plan perspective, you really have the ability to also determine plans in a very easy way. And I want to spend a couple of minutes on this. The main base for how we take snapshots, as Zala was saying, is a concept called protection groups. And that's what gives us the atomic snapshots. When we have the atomic snapshots, it allows for our customers to have a very simple framework for defining what needs to be powered on in what sequence, right? So I hope this is rendering a little better in the live stream. But what this allows you to do is simply say, start this protection group first, wait for a few seconds, run the script, start the next protection group second, so on and so forth. So protection groups give us a very good point-in-time baseline for the VMs that the customer's environment needs to be powered on in a specific sequence, and that's what the orchestration plan can allow you to do. One really big point is that it's a converged primary, backup, and DR stack, and there are some very interesting benefits that emerge from this. Right? One, as I said, use latest or older snapshots. Second is that we can now do an end-to-end compliance, so then you fail over, it's supposed to work. You can do instant mass restart. And this is kind of to your point, that whether it's on-prem to on-prem, whether it's on-prem to VMC, you can power on a large number of VMs instantly, and you get very easy DR readiness. So for our customers, when we take this offering to them, it's a no-brainer. They're basically like, wow, this is the simplest way I can get DR ready today. Operationally consistent, huge point, no VM format conversion, no data format conversion, all the way from on-prem to the cloud, right? So we talked about that. And this is the example that I was trying to kind of allude to your question earlier, which is you get true pay-per-use recovery in VMC. You're storing the backups in S3. When you need to fail over, you deploy the HDDC, fail over, fail back, tear it down.
And that takes 0 seconds.
That is zero. That the failover is 0 RTO.
Ah, okay, cool. So you got to wait for the SDDC
Yes.
to deploy.
I mean, of course, you have to wait for the HDDC to deploy.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting to.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
if I have a disaster and I want to press that button,
Absolutely.
actually it's 90 minutes to wait for the
Absolutely. But that is more of a VMware SDDC requirement right now.
Oh, yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
But you were talking from a cold start.
Absolutely.
Press a button.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, you got it. Last point real quick, comprehensive reporting. So we make it easy for our customers to prove compliance from the DR use case. You can get your configuration report. You can get your compliance reports. You can get a completely detailed test run report, all from a simple management interface delivered to your email or downloadable as a PDF. And I think you'll see a good demo for that as well.